are we focusing on it? To strengthen our alliance a little bit, I want you to think through the following questions and really start wondering and getting curious about yourself around what you're creating currently in your life, in your sphere of influence, and in the world. What are you creating without thinking about it? And what are you creating with intention? As you think about those things that you're creating, whether it be independently or with a group, what is the primary emotion about the creative process that you find yourself in right now? Are you excited or disappointed or frustrated or elated or calm? There's lots of different options. Don't give yourself rules about what you should be feeling about being creative. Just identify what your primary emotion is in the process. And also, who is the audience that you're drawn to sharing your creative work with? This work that you're doing is meaningful, and it's meant to be shared with others, not just hoarded for yourself. So who is the audience that you're drawn to sharing this work with when it's completed, or even throughout the process? So when we're talking about excellent expression, we're talking about knowing yourself and the things that are excellent in you very well, and then being able to manage those things in a way that expresses yourself excellently. So what we're really talking about here, we're talking about creating from yourself. In Courageous Capturing, we talked about creating from beauty. In Redemptive Resilience, we talked about creating from mess. And with Excellent Expression, we're talking about creating from you, who you are, who you've been created to be, and how you can use those special things about you, your intentional uniqueness and value, how you've been equipped to create something meaningful in the world that's excellent and stands out. So the reason that we want to focus on this, there's lots of different reasons, but a few quotes that I wanted to give you and sources are as follows. In Switch on Your Brain, Dr. Caroline Leaf says that research shows that 75 to 98% of all mental, physical, and behavioral illness comes from one's thought life. We are actually wired for love and optimism, and so when we react by thinking negatively and making negative choices, the quality of our thinking suffers, which means the quality of our brain architecture suffers. Our thinking actually creates real physical structures in our brains. And so when we think negatively about ourselves or about our capabilities or about the world in general, it actually messes up our natural wiring. We're wired for love and optimism, and so our brains then change structure and create a toxic environment. So it's then very difficult to express yourself excellently because you have run up against all of these negative barriers that are mindful and also just physical structures in your brain that you've created over time. So recognize that as you're entering into creating from yourself, there might need to be some old beliefs about you, your capabilities, the world, or how you interact with it that are going to need to change before you can become actually successful in navigating more positive, excellent choices for yourself. Tim Keller defines meaningful work as taking the raw materials we're given and assembling them in a way that causes other people to flourish. So one of the questions that I want you to continually ask yourself is, am I engaging in meaningful work? Am I taking the raw materials that are present in me? Am I assembling them in such a way that causes other people to flourish? Am I expressing them in this excellent way? If you are, then Martin Seligman in his book Flourish says that when you go into flow, and many of you know what that feels like, it's when you're in a state of knowing that you're in the right place at the right time and that you're using yourself fully in it. You can call it being in the zone or being in the flow. But when you go into flow, it's sometimes reported as the highest level of satisfaction or aliveness that you can experience. So if you think about that moment or those moments in your life where you can say, yeah, I remember feeling fully alive there, you were probably in flow. So you go into flow when your highest strengths are deployed to meet the highest challenges that come your way. Deploying your highest strengths leads to more positive emotion, to more meaning, to more accomplishment, and to better relationships. So there's a whole bunch of reasons as to why we want to get to this point of flow, why we want to continually choose aliveness, why we want to know ourselves, the raw materials we've been given, and choose to use them in a positive way that continues to impact our thought processes and even our physical health. So this is where I share a little bit of my story. When we talk about excellent expression and your uniqueness as a person, there are so many factors that come into making up who you are. But what I want to focus on for just a little bit during our time today is the importance of the soul and also what it is. So when I was doing my undergrad work, this is me then, when I was doing my undergrad work in psychology and leadership at Indiana Wesleyan University, I walked into my physiological psychology course. It was the second semester of my freshman year. And walked in and was kind of nervous about it because it was still, the whole college thing was still very new to me. And I got there early and sat in a seat and had heard about this professor who is coming in, but I had experienced great things from the psychology department thus far, so I was kind of excited about meeting him too. He had been on sabbatical in Africa doing research on children with cerebral malaria. So he comes flying in to our classroom and with a huge stack of papers under his arm and a coffee cup held way up high. His hair was all scattered. His shirt was half untucked. It looked like he hadn't slept in days. Kind of had a mad scientist look about him. And he came in all frenzied, handed out these 3x5 cards to all of us. And I think all of the faculty that year must have gone to some seminar that said, give your students 3x5 cards and have them write something about themselves on it. So it was my fourth class at the beginning of this semester. I had gotten these 3x5 cards and all of them, and they had all said something like, write your name and your favorite candy and what you love most about this topic, or some such thing. And Dr. Boyven actually said, I want you to take this card, write your name on it, and write down your definition of the soul and what its function is. And I sat there and thought, are you kidding me? Like, why do you expect us to do this? Why do you expect us to define it? I don't know what the function is. And I kind of got angry first and thought, this is embarrassing. Why would he ask us to do this when he hasn't taught us anything yet? And then I realized that the embarrassment and the anger was really because I should know what the soul is and its function. I was actually studying psychology, right? Which is the study of the psyche or the soul. So it might be kind of important to understand what that is. So I wrote down something that wasn't full of meaning or understanding, and left with that question hanging in my mind and a determination to answer it. I talked about the soul a lot at that point in my life, and its importance and how it is saved, and then was really humbled by the fact that I couldn't even tell you what it is. So for the next several years, I read a lot and studied a lot and researched a lot about the soul. And I want to share with you what I found, because it's great. It carries great meaning for me and the work that I currently do. So the soul, if you were to define it, it is the essence of our aliveness. Our soul is the dimension in us that is inextricably linked to our identity. And while the soul is distinct from the other dimensions of self, it's very much still connected to one's body, mind, heart, and spirit. The soul's function is to organize these elements of personhood into wholeness. And so if our goal is excellent expression, one of the most meaningful things you can do is get in touch with your soul. It's going to be highly efficient and highly effective to start to recognize what is the essence of my aliveness, what makes me come fully alive, and what are the things in me that I feel are inextricably linked to my identity, because they're probably somehow rooted in my soul. You also want to start to understand where different motivations come from and where your different strengths are. You're going to have physical strengths, mental strengths, emotional strengths, spiritual strengths. You're also going to have these soul strengths, which are some of those highest strengths that Martin Seligman talked about a couple slides back. And the soul's function in all of this is to organize all these other elements of personhood into wholeness, into alignment, so that you can operate as a whole person, fully choosing aliveness. And that's where flourishing is going to come in. That's where excellent expression is going to come in. Dallas Willard said the most illuminating and rational way of thinking about the soul is to regard it as that component of the total person which coordinates all the capacities and dimensions of the human being and leads to their interactive development to form an individual life. So as we continue talking about excellent expression, I want you to hold the idea of the soul and how I've defined it for you here in its function, and realize that as you're creating from self, you're engaging the soul in this process, which is just really exciting. So an example of how you can put all of this together is found here. So for me, I'll minimize myself a bit so you can see the whole picture. For me, there was a point in my life where my understanding of the soul, my understanding of my strengths, an awareness of my purpose, all kind of came together and lined up in a way. And when that happened, I came across this painting by Danny O'Connor called Ready to Release the Shackles. One of my highest values is freedom and empowerment. I also value exploration and learning. And my current life purpose statement is that I am the prism that freely scatters light. So if we were to follow what I've told you through, the process you guys have already been through, what I'm doing with this painting is courageously capturing it. It holds some sense of meaning for me based in the experience I was going through at the time and all the different colors and emotions and textures that pop up around that experience. And the experience I was going through was one that did challenge my identity and also empowered me to a higher level of freedom. You can also see the alignment of my values in the painting: freedom, grace, love, exploration and learning, strength. All of that is in this painting as I look at it. And so when I came across it, courageously captured it. It also helped me to start creating from my mess and redeeming some of those negative experiences, those messy, painful, hurtful things, and freeing myself from those, choosing to say that I came through that and was stronger, and that I value what I value, and there was so much of that in this painting that it struck me. So you guys will find at different moments, different things might strike you or resonate with your soul somehow. What's fantastic about art and music and more experiential based forms of learning is that it is processed, it gets taken and understood in what you might call like your center midbrain. And much of what happens in there is more basal and instinctual. It's more connected with emotion and less connected with cognitive processing. And so there are things that your heart and your soul and your mind and your spirit know that resonate or get rooted in when you experience a painting or a piece of music or even an adventurous experience or relational experience that you might not be able to describe with words, but you could describe with color or with texture. Because it hasn't yet gotten to your prefrontal cortex. And even if it does, your language processing centers are still in a different area of your brain. So what can happen with art or music or these other experiential forms of learning is you can actually connect all these different areas of your brain. You can enter into this meaningful soul work because it's connecting the different parts of who you are and taking something that once couldn't really be described with language, putting it in front of you, and you're able to then describe it with language as well as emotion and texture and color and soulfulness. So that's what can happen as you go into excellent expression. I could sit and talk to you about this painting, about the experiences that I went through and how meaningful it is, about the meaning that I see in it and how my values and my life purpose can be reflected in it. And I can also then say, and this is how I want to continue to express my strengths and my identity and myself, my soul, in an excellent way. And here's how we can do that, okay? So we can start creating from you. First, identify what makes you come alive. Where are you when it happens? Who are you with? What are you doing? Then articulate your identity. What is your purpose? What are your values? What are your distinguishing characteristics? That could come from who you've always been. It could also come from your life experiences. What roles do you play? What roles are you choosing to play? If you have more than 5 roles, you're going to need to pare that down a bit. So choose, everyone plays more than 5, but choose which ones you're committing to. Number 3 is maximize your strengths. So what are those things that are excellent in your body, heart, mind, and spirit? Start using them and organizing them with your soul. and then create from you. Align your creative work with steps 1 through 3. So for me, my creative work is identifying in other people what strengths they've been created with, how they're uniquely and intentionally created, how they're capable, how they're valuable, how they've been equipped, and then enabling them to live that out more fully. And so I've aligned a lot of my creative work with that and come up with different programs and systems. And for me, my creative work doesn't always come out artistically or musically, but it comes out through programming and organization and systems and connecting others in unique ways. And then number 5 is connect with others. Connect with others who will challenge your creative work rather than criticize it, and who will collaborate with you instead of compete. This is a vulnerable process, creating from yourself, and you get to decide who's invited into that process. But please invite somebody that can witness this work, this process in you, and it can also champion it in you. So creativity can be sparked in any personal dimension, body, mind, heart, or spirit. But an excellent creation is cultivated through utilizing your unique strengths in an organizing process of the soul. It is then produced through a physical expression that bears evidence of dimensional alignment, aligning those different dimensions of yourself into wholeness, and personal congruence. Thus, our individual creative work is an act that requires vulnerability, courage, and devotion. And so you can see how, for me, the painting sparked something in both my mind, heart, and spirit, connected with me. And it motivated an organizing process in my soul to say, what is it about this that's so resonant? And what is it about it that you want to duplicate, that you want to capture? Is there anything messy in it that you want to redeem? And moving forward, how will you use your strengths to excellently express what is true here and what's beautiful here? And as I do that with my strengths, my different dimensions of self come into alignment and personal congruence. And I can step into this creative work that requires vulnerability, that requires courage, that requires devotion, and say that it's worth it because of how it aligns with me, and as a result, the effective and efficient results that I see. So, application. What will you do? You'll get part 3 of your life gallery homework, and I'd like you to actually create your gallery during this part of the Cultivating Creativity webinar series. So you've been maybe working with electronic means up until this point, or different parts of technology. For creating your gallery, I want you to create a physical representation of these different things, and there are instructions for that in the part 3 homework. But you'll want to create your gallery and take a picture of that to share with at least myself, if not others as well. In it, include your personal purpose and your top 5 values if you have those already. And then continue capturing and redeeming. The more work you do in courageous capturing and redemptive resilience, the fuller your excellent expression can be, and the stronger those connections in your mind, in your brain, become, the more practiced you are at self-awareness and soul work. And then cultivate some creative disciplines. Figure out where you want to be in your creative process within the next 6 months, and then set up some sort of timeline or discipline for yourself to get there. And the last thing is accountability. So what I'd like to request from you is that you post a picture or description of your life gallery in whatever format you're connected to Lark Songs. So it might be on course sites, it might be on a Facebook group, might be via email. But post a picture or description of your gallery by the time that it's due. And use the other webinar participants. If you run up against some sort of roadblock, use them to process that out, or ask them how they're doing or how their life gallery is coming along. That's a way of courageously capturing too. And then use your coach, which in this situation is me. So use me as you come up against obstacles or as you want to celebrate. Connect with me and let me know how your process is going and where you need challenged or where you might need to collaborate. And that's the end of part 3 of the Cultivating Creativity webinar series. I hope you guys have a great day and that you continue to cultivate your creativity through excellent expression.